Let's talk about London's brand new musical 50 First Dates, which is currently showing at the Other Palace Theatre. This is a brand new show which is based on the brilliant 2004 film of the same name. Does it work? Let's discuss, but first let's head on over to the amazing Other Palace Theatre in London whilst I'll tell you a little bit about the story of 50 First Dates. So, as we said before, 50 First Dates the musical is based on the film of the same name. However, this version is modernised slightly for today's theatre audiences. The basics remain the same, and we meet Henry, who now is a travel vlogger, and he travels the world and prides himself on not really staying anywhere for very long. That is until he finds himself in Key Largo, Florida, where he meets the very lovely Lucy. He spends an incredible day with her and very unexpectedly finds himself falling for her. Unfortunately, though, Lucy suffers from short-term memory loss following a car accident a year earlier. So every single morning, she wakes up not remembering the day before. What follows is a heartwarming story of how Henry tries to win her heart every single morning. Despite many, many bumps in the road, he learns the true meaning of love, persistence, and determination in the face of impossible odds. Okay, so first things first, I have got my tea and we are ready to talk all things theatre and tea. If you haven't ever met me before, my name is Charlotte. I am brand new to YouTube, brand new to this journey, so thank you so much for being with me here today. I'm so excited to discuss this brand new musical over a tea. So first things first, in terms of the story itself, I think it's a really good story to bring to the stage. Having a story with so many layers and so much dimension, especially kind of emotionally, is something that is always going to work really well for the stage because there is so much to unpack for a director and for the cast and creatives. And you can get really quite deep with it. Whether or not we always get deep enough is something that we will discuss a little bit later on. What I love in a musical is a musical that kind of takes me on a real journey. And I would say that this show really does that. So this story in particular, the fact that you have kind of the excitement of that first day, they meet, they have this amazing day together. He's really excited to see her again the next morning. And then she obviously doesn't remember and they're starting from scratch again. So as an audience member, you kind of go through this amazing journey of the excitement of them meeting and them having this great day together. And there's a lot of joy and a lot of happiness. There's a lot of funny moments in that. And then you have the confusion the next day, the kind of twist in the story where she doesn't remember. And then the audience gets behind him. The audience is really supporting him. And you have these two sides of the story where she's completely oblivious to the situation and he is entirely invested. So you have these two stories playing against each other, and you have the ensemble in the background who are telling a little bit of a backstory. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more backstory there, but they're kind of warning him away, and he's ploughing on ahead in the pursuit of getting to know this amazing woman that he's just met more. So the audience can really get behind him in this story. And you have this amazing balance of excitement when it's going really well, but also heartbreak and worry when he faces these many bumps in the road along the way. And you really go through a lot of like highs and lows in this musical through the journey, which I think in a musical, I just think that works so well. I think it's something that takes you on that emotional journey and you're going through these highs and these lows. It really gets you and it has that emotional depth to it. I think as an audience member, you do feel invested and you do really back him. You really want it to go well. And every time that he is knocked back, you're supporting him to not give up and to keep going the extra mile. You really do go on that emotional journey with him. So I do think it is a story that works really well for the stage. Whether or not it is done perfectly at this point, at this world premiere point, I think we're partway there, but I think the material itself is perfect for musical theatre. I think it is a really great and interesting story to be told on stage. There's just so much to it and so much to be explored, and so much with this production itself has already been explored and is great, but I think there is even more that can be done with this story. So the Other Palace Theatre, if you have been before, you will know it is quite a small space. It's a really intimate space, which is great. And as an audience member, you'll sit anywhere in that theatre and have a fantastic view of the stage. But the staging is incredibly small. So it's always really interesting whenever I see a musical at the Other Palace Theatre, how they design the set to work with the space and how much they can kind of get out of that small space. It really takes a very clever designer to bring out the most in that space. I suppose you could go to two different extremes. You could do kind of like a Jamie Lloyd take on a musical, which is very minimal, or you could really delve into how can we best use a couple of small set pieces and a couple of small props to really enhance and tell this story. And I think that's what they have done here with 50 First Dates. So 50 First Dates, the musical, is based in Key Largo in Florida, which is kind of a beachside resort. So it's very kind of beach hut, beachside vibes on stage. And there's one main set piece in the middle of the stage, which transforms between a couple of different places. So it is the setting of Ukulele Sue's cafe, and then it turns around and it is the front of Lucy's house. It also has a screen that they pull down, which has some projections on it. At one point, we're at the Turtle Hospital. We're outside of Ukulele Sue's rather than inside. I think at one point it also opens up and it's the inside of Lucy's house. So it is a really versatile set piece, and in a small space, it does work really well. And it is the kind of musical, I think, that it does need some set to help tell the story. So that kind of works really well. And then on top of that, we've got a few kind of set pieces, a couple of tables that are kind of wheeled in and out of the stage. There's also some fun rubber rings and other beachside props that get utilized and also get like hooked onto the sides of the stage. So they've really kind of transformed this space in the Other Palace Theatre into Key Largo, Florida, and it works really, really well. But also the lighting as a whole really helps to tell this story, and it helps to transform the stage into each of those different settings, whether we're outside or we're at Ukulele Sue's or we're inside Lucy's house. So alongside the set, the lighting just helps to move the audience through that story. In terms of creative design, one thing that I did really struggle with this production was the sound design. I found the mix of the music and the vocals to be really off. With the mix of the sounds, the orchestra was far too loud and it was drowning out the voices of the cast on stage. So if the cast were singing as a whole, it tended to be okay, but in any solo parts, I found that their words were really being drowned out. There's a whole song where Henry sings on his own that kind of sets the scene for the story. And I found it really difficult to make out what he was saying and to really understand the story of that song, because I was missing words and missing whole chunks of what he was saying because it was so difficult to hear him over the orchestra. In terms of the music and the lyrics, I found the selection of songs to be really hit and miss. For me personally, it took me a few songs to really get into it. Once you're into it, there's a couple of songs that are absolutely fantastic. So one of the songs when the story is really starting to get going is a song about how they're reliving every day. And it's a little bit Groundhog Day, I suppose. He's coming in, he's trying to impress her, he fails, he tries again the next day. And the music and lyrics that go along with that song, I thought were really upbeat and uplifting. It was a funny song, and it was a moment in the show that I felt like made the audience sit up and pay attention and really got everyone into the story. It was one of those moments where you're like, okay, here we go, like this is really good. So yeah, there were a couple of songs throughout the show like that I thought, oh wow, this is brilliant. And then a couple of songs that I thought missed the mark a little bit. There's one song, and this kind of also plays into the story as a whole, I would say, apart from Henry and Lucy, in terms of depth of the characters, no other character really has very much depth. So with Lucy's family, with her dad and her brother, there's a song which they're kind of saying like, don't mess with our daughter. And they're obviously saying that because they love her so much and they don't want her to get hurt. But for me, it just came across as overly aggressive. And we didn't have any backstory. We hadn't seen them with Lucy before. We hadn't seen how much they love Lucy and how much they care for her. There was no build-up to this song. And then all of a sudden, we meet them and they're just overly aggressive towards Henry and they're beating him up. And it feels a bit jarring because we haven't had any backstory with them. And we haven't had time to build any kind of emotional connection to them, any kind of understanding of their characters. It just really comes out of the blue and it feels overly aggressive. And I think that was just a theme with the story as a whole. I think we just didn't have any opportunity to get to know any of the other characters. So we meet Sandy, who is a great character, who loves Disneyland, who has worked at Ukulele Sue's for quite a while now, but obviously Lucy doesn't know that because he started working there after her accident. But we don't really go into any more depth into his character. The same with Ukulele Sue and her partner. We kind of get glimpses of them. And we know that Ukulele Sue was Lucy's mum's best friend, but there could be like some really deep emotional connection there, but it's very much just kind of glided over. And there are moments, I feel, where the creatives are hoping that this will get some kind of like heartbreak, some emotional response. But because that storyline has been given so little backstory, it doesn't really get the emotional response that it maybe could. As the show goes on, Lucy's brother and dad do soften and we do see like a softer side to them. Her dad has a moment with Lucy where it's meant to be quite emotional and quite heartbreaking, and I think it could be really heartbreaking and you could get a really emotional response from the audience, but the audience never gets an opportunity to really connect with those characters. So those moments just don't hit, like they don't feel that heartbreaking or that emotional because I've not got to know Lucy's dad. I don't know his backstory. I don't know how he's feeling about this situation. Like, I just don't know him. So although the story does have a lot of depth and you do go on this emotional roller coaster in terms of Lucy and Henry, and it's brilliant and it's a really great story, it could be so much more than that. It could rip your heart out and rip it in two. Like, it could be so heartbreakingly emotional, but actually it doesn't really hit as hard as it could. More than anything, it's heartwarming. I did feel myself get emotional a couple of times, but more in kind of like a heartwarming way. It's always going to be a heartwarming story, but it could also really pack a punch in terms of like heartbreak. It would just take it to that other level. It would already, it takes you on that journey, but it could really take you on that journey. Like, it could make the highs higher and the lows lower, and it would just give the whole musical that extra little punch that I think it needs to be a real hit. I think it's got legs, I really do, but I think it could hit you so much harder. Perhaps it is because they have condensed the whole story into a one-act musical. It's an hour and 40 minutes, no interval. Because they're condensing a whole story into that short space of time, which I'm not against. I don't dislike a one-act musical when you can fit everything into that time. But perhaps for this story, maybe it would work better as a longer musical where we can really delve into each character's story and really get into the nitty and gritty and pull those emotional, heartbreaking moments out to make it a really hard-hitting story and musical that would pack a little bit more of a punch and have more of an impact. I think it's there. I think it has the ability to do that. It's just not quite able to hit as strongly as it could. In terms of the cast, it is a really strong cast. As soon as I saw Georgina Castle was going to be in it as the lead role of Lucy, I knew it was going to be great. I think Georgina Castle is fantastic. She is so talented. She has a gorgeous voice and she just glows on stage. She has this incredible stage presence. I think she just is perfect for the part of Lucy. She just sells the story so perfectly well, and she has that almost like childlike joy in Lucy, where she is just kind of overjoyed with each day, living each day as it comes. And yes, it's the same day over and over again. But she just emits this kind of joy, and she genuinely just light up the stage when she's on it. But then at the same time, you have those moments of confusion and heartbreak. And as an audience member, you really do feel behind her. She really does capture your heart. And alongside her, Josh St. Clair is playing the role of Henry. He is fantastic in this role. He is funny. He really gives across that determination, won't be put down by anyone, won't be stopped by anyone. He's just got this really lovable, determined energy about him, and I think the audience is really on his side. They really want him to succeed. He's just a joy to watch on stage, and I think as a pair, you really believe that they're building this relationship every single day, and you want them to succeed. You're backing them, you're cheering them on. They've got an amazing chemistry on stage. As a duo, I just think they're perfect for this production. A real standout for me was Chad St. Louis as Sandy. He's absolutely fantastic. Every time he is on stage, he catches your eye. Every time he has anything to say or anything to sing, he has the audience in the palm of his hands. Huge shout out to him. I thought he was such an asset to the production. Another standout for me was Natasha O'Brien as Delilah, who is Henry's agent. And although this isn't a huge part in the show, she just kind of pops up every now and again, kind of hassling Henry. But wow, she just has this incredible energy to her, this kind of like catty, overworked agent energy, which is just brilliant. And she kind of just tells that backstory throughout the production that Henry is so invested in Lucy that he has completely left his real life behind. She is just this constant reminder of this, and throughout the production she gets more and more irate, more and more losing her temper, and I just think she does it so well. I think she's brilliant. She's so funny. She has this incredible comedic timing and energy. She 100% was a standout. I just think she was fantastic. Just as a whole, I did find the cast to have a really lovely energy about them. I think you really feel that they all love Lucy and they care for Lucy and that they're behind her. And although you don't get much depth in terms of their characters, I think that they all do bring a really lovely energy to the show. I thought Aisha Naomi Peace was fantastic as Ukulele Sue, and although I would have liked to see more depth to her character, what we did see of her was fantastic, and she has a couple of chances to show off her absolutely incredible vocals in a couple of the songs, and wow, like she is absolutely brilliant. Like I say, I would have liked to have seen more of that character. I would have loved to have seen more depth there. But with the material that she has been given, I thought she did a fantastic job as Ukulele Sue. All of the cast, every single cast member on stage, I thought was fantastic and told the story really well. And they just brought a lovely, warm, caring energy to the production, which I think that's the idea. The idea is that it's this community and this family that are all behind Lucy and just want the best for her. And that is exactly what they gave, I think, as an ensemble. So yeah, overall, a fantastic cast, and they told the story really, really well. So yeah, I think overall, I really enjoyed the show. I think it is a gorgeous story. And as I say, I think it is a perfect story for a musical because it does have so many levels, so much emotional depth, and it can take you on such a roller coaster, so many highs and lows. So I do think it is a perfect story for the stage. I would like to see a little bit more work done to it to really explore each character in a little bit more depth, because I think that would make the emotional moments more emotional. The story of Ukulele Sue being her mum's best friend and the story of her brother and her dad, those three characters in particular, if we explored their story a little bit more in depth, I think it would make those heartbreaking moments, they would really hit you really hard. It would just make those highs higher and the lows lower, which is, I just think that's what you want in a phenomenal musical. I think it is a fantastic musical. I think it definitely has legs. I hope that it has more of a life after this run in London, because I enjoyed it. I found it incredibly heartwarming. It's a couple of days later, my microphone decided to turn itself off right at the end of that video. But I just wanted to come on here and round everything off and say that overall, I really do think that this is a lovely show. And I think that despite there being room for some improvement and room for this story to really have a lot more impact than it has at the moment, I still think ultimately that even right now that this musical is a really lovely show. It's incredibly heartwarming. It's really uplifting. As an audience member, you do feel completely invested in the journey. You want to see how it turns out. You are rooting for the characters. So I do think ultimately it is a really lovely story. It's perfect for the stage. It's perfect for a musical. And I hope that this is just the start of a really exciting journey for the musical, because I think it could go really far. I think it's got a lot of potential. So that is everything I think that I have to say about this musical. It is on at the Other Palace Theatre in London until the 16th of November. So if you can grab a ticket, I would highly recommend. I got my tickets via the TodayTix app. I got rush tickets on the day, so they were £29.50, and I had a fantastic view. So yeah, I would really, really recommend, if you can catch it, to catch it. And I hope that this musical has a future ahead of it. I really do. Thank you so much for joining me here. As I said, I'm brand new to this YouTube journey. I'm not brand new to blogging and reviewing theatre, but YouTube is new for me. So your support is hugely appreciated, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye.